Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Logos Privacy Builders Bootcamp. This is going to be a 4-week program series, learning how to build tools that are private by default and understanding why this matters. So we're joined today by a couple of the Logos team, and this first session will just be a bit of an intro to the Logos blockchain and the Logos stack. And how it all works, and this will be hosted by James, but I'll give a bit of an overview of what to expect from the rest of this bootcamp. So this bootcamp is aimed for developers and people who want to build on the Logos stack, and the bigger idea behind this is that privacy is not just a feature that you add on later, and it should be part of the infrastructure from the start. So I think you guys can hopefully see my screen, and this is the platform page which we're going to be using for this series, where you can join all these workshops. All the information about this series will be on here, and what you'll learn, everything like that. All the documentation you'll need is here as well, about the Lambda prize, which you can receive at the end of this. You'll also receive a certificate of completion to show that you guys have attended the sessions and engaged in this. Your attendance will be noted basically throughout these series. So make sure you try and turn up to as many of these sessions as you can. And if you can't, then send me a Discord DM or drop me an email, and I'll be very lenient. But try and attend as many of these as you can. So you guys are going to be learning, you'll get introduced to the Logos stack across the Logos blockchain, Logos messaging, Logos storage, and you'll learn how these different pieces work together and what kind of applications they make possible. So the goal here is not to completely understand the theory of it, but to actually learn how to build with it and what you can build with it. So this bootcamp will start from the foundations, and it's going to build up week by week, get a bit deeper into it. And so early on, you'll be getting set up and become familiar with the stack, and then you'll go a bit deeper into more technical workshops around the different parts of Logos. And then after that, the program becomes a bit more hands-on with some vibe coding sessions and practical build time. So we're going to have a relatively consistent structure throughout this series, which will be Mondays will be workshop days, and Wednesdays will be workshop days. So it'll be Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday. And then on Friday, we're going to have office hours, which will be, the Logos team will be available on Discord. If you guys have any questions, you can feel free to drop them in the chat, and they'll be available then to answer any of those questions. So yeah, just make sure you've noted this consistent sort of structure that we're going to stick with for the next couple of weeks. And the expectations really are that you guys try and attend as many of these sessions as you can, engage as you can and where and when you can, and ask questions on the Discord, come to the sessions, and make the most of the support that is available. So this is going to be a hands-on boot camp. We've got a couple of vibe coding sessions at the end of it, where hopefully you can learn how to build things with the Logos stack. And it should be a very good series of webinars and workshops. Excited to have you all guys. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll get a good understanding of what the Logos stack is, and we'll have hopefully built something meaningful through the vibe coding sessions. So yes, so this is the platform page, which you guys can see currently. All the information is here about the curriculum, the certification. You'll get that at the end after completing this. And then here are all the guests who these guys are going to be speaking. They're going to be mentoring throughout this program, giving you lots of information about Logos and what you guys can build with it. And then all the workshops are here, and then the finished workshops will be here. You can find the recordings. All workshops will be recorded and uploaded here, and you can watch back them to refresh your memory. And if you guys have any questions, then shoot me a message on Discord, and I'll be happy to answer them. But for now, let's get started. If you guys drop let's get the chat going. Let us know where you're joining from, and let us know what you're looking forward to learning about the Logos and this bootcamp series. And then let's get started. I think I'm going to hand over to James. He's going to take you guys through a bit of an introductory session, and then there'll be some Q&As at the end, and I think Guru will answer some questions along with James at the end. So let me stop screen sharing. I can do that here. And then James, do you want to take over? I think yep, wonderful.
There we go. And hopefully everyone can hear me okay.
Yes. Perfect.
Great. So yeah, once again, my little preview disappears. So I assume you're seeing the whole screen there.
Yes.
Should be a good size. Yeah, and I guess Guru is with me on the call. Yeah, my name's James. I joined Logos as a engineer for the ecosystem development team. So yeah, any questions or any issues, yeah, hit up the chat, and I think Logos will help, Guru will help me out there. So where are my notes? Let's get this open. Here we are. Yeah, so yeah, thanks to everyone for choosing to take part in this. I think it was introduced at the beginning as like the Logos blockchain, but Logos is a bit more than that. Like it starts like one piece of it is a blockchain, but actually it's a whole a stack. Where are we calling? Let me just open this. Here we are. Yeah, it's like the blockchain is sort of contained within the stack, which is the Logos platform, which is a modular application platform. And beyond the software, you've got local circles. So it is also a community initiative where you have different communities who meet regularly and discuss local problems, and then look at ways that there are like different solutions to those local problems. So yeah, you can also find those people building on Logos who are also in your area potentially. And generally, Logos is a movement. So let's get into what that means, because that's sort of the why as to Logos exists and what it's looking at. So I should be able to. Yeah. So the idea, which is like one of the founders, Jared Hope and Peter Lotto, they hopefully you can see that they wrote this book on Farewell to Westphalia, which is around crypto sovereignty and post-nation state governance. And the idea is that this is sort of to upgrade the infrastructure for digital citizens and freedoms. So that's sort of part of the why. And the part towards this that I resonate with is that it can sort of bring balance to our digital life. So it's not just about technology for governance, but it's also what it, in its stride, what it happens to do is sort of bring the sort of digital power back to ourselves, so we can have local tools, have things that can't be censored and taken down. So basically reclaiming our digital independence. And this is sort of to fight against the status quo that we have on a few large centralized servers. So put another way, we're part of a generation, this is off the Logos website, like we're part of a generation fed up with corruption, surveillance, and stagnation, often associated with incumbent institutions. So hopefully there's people there in the audience who have joined, who are sort of wanting to build towards these goals. And just, it's helpful to keep in mind like these kind of broader ambitions that can be achieved with technology like this. So who might you be? So this is where you might be interested in independence. You might be here just to build something useful for yourself and for others. Maybe you care about privacy and local first applications, but also maybe not. So whatever the reason, you are early. You're an early builder on the Logos stack. So yeah, we're all together on this journey during the bootcamp and after. So yeah, just, we're all sort of pioneers here. We're sort of pushing through difficulties. There's going to be challenges with new technologies. And yeah, we're just all going to make something work here. Basically the idea, not just in this bootcamp and with Logos, but with these kind of independent technologies, there's sometimes a bit more friction compared to the sort of more smoother, frictionless tools, because they happen to be more extractive. Like they've got sort of more of an incentive to pull you towards that. So it's just a reminder that there are challenges, and there's probably good for us. But if you're not here for the independence and you're just here to win some Lander prizes, then that's okay too. So yeah, who is sort of Logos? Who's building it? Who's behind it? You've probably heard of Status from the Ethereum community. They're sort of OGs in the Ethereum space. Like Status Private Messenger is used by Vitalik. The technology Waku, formerly known as Waku, which is now Logos Messaging, that's been used within Status, Railgun, Fileverse. So there's a lot of history of development for many years in the Ethereum space, which is quite good. You may have heard of the unified client. So that's Nimbus, also by the same people who are behind Logos. So there's a lot of teams who've come together to make this kind of a reality by combining all parts that have been built in the past. So sometimes to put it in perspective, I look back at the original Ethereum vision in 2014, which was, these were sort of, the idea is to have sort of sovereign applications that can run safely client side. So we're not, let me just have a quick pause to check my messages, make sure I've not missed anything. And I guess someone could dial in if not. There we go, we're all looking good. Okay, we'll jump back to this. So yeah, the original Ethereum vision had these components of sort of the blockchain component, the messaging component, and storage. And these were all to be run client side. So the idea is that your dApp could not be taken down. You had a censorship resistant dApp, whereas obviously now that's a little bit different. But yeah, there were kind of broad ambitions of like, oh, we could have a decentralized Uber where everything happened on chain, and then our UI would be served locally with private messaging between participants. But yeah, the Mist browser as it was, this was sort of originally manifested as Mist browser, but that was deprecated in 2019. And then Ethereum's focus has obviously been more on the finance side of things, but obviously the initial goal, sort of motivations for it, let's do there. So you'll notice the Logos step kind of resembles that to some degree, where you have storage, messaging, and the blockchain components, but and it is to run locally as well. But we'll get more into those details later. So it's it's sort of a familiar design to be able to also load your own modules and have apps served locally. But we will dig more into that later. Quote from one of the people that work here: if you understand how Linux works, you understand Logos. So the idea is you have components that do one thing well, you have modular components, then you can basically have them as dependencies for your app that runs on your local software. And remember, this is all outside of the browser. So the idea is, we'll go into why, but the browser can bring in a lot of problems. So the software that all of this runs in is called Logos Basecamp. But let's just remind ourselves of why the browser is actually a bit of an issue. The sort of browser-based apps, they collapse privacy by design. They so the surveillance concerns that are listed there, like the front ends can leak metadata. They can sort of fingerprint users by like screen size or resolution, or what types of requests are made. There's many ways that you get uniquely identified just from your browser session. And basically any RPC providers, they can sort of track your usage. So it's just far from the private thing we might want to do. And also the censorship concerns, say with the dApp, like if you're relying on, so like a domain could get taken down, sort of certain endpoints can get blocked. If there's some software that you're using within the browser, there could be an automatic update that just cripples it, or adds surveillance, or adds a fee that you might not like. Like there's many sort of problems with that if you're not in control of the software, and you're just relying it to be served from a website. So it can, as it says there, can quietly destroy an app, even though the contracts persist. So censorship and surveillance sort of start at the interface and is not on chain. So whilst Ethereum has sort of the blockchain component really solid with finance, it's everything else on top of that. When we depend on the browser, that we sort of fall apart with what we want to achieve. So the browser is not neutral infrastructure. If your app depends on it, it is already compromised. So I just like to sort of reiterate that point, which is why Logos apps that you build run within Basecamp. So Basecamp runs the Logos core framework, and users can run their Logos apps locally. So a Logos app, as I mentioned before, has a user interface, and then it depends on individual modules. So we can take a look at in some detail of what that looks like. I'm not sure. Let me just jump back to the chat. And I suppose Guru can ping me in Discord if there's anything. Let me just find this other window. Here we are. All right, so the chat's, maybe people are grabbing questions in the chat. Oh, it's people already sharing links. Okay. We've got a lot of detailed questions already happening. That's great. But let's continue on these slides and we'll get into the technical links. So within the user interface is in Qt, And the Qt sort of was chosen because of its like in a nutshell, it's for its security. It's a simpler type of UI. So when you are generating those components, they might look a bit simple at first, but the reason why we're using Qt is because of the security model and sort of how solid it is on that front. So yeah, these are the components here. Application discovery. Yeah, actually, I'm not going to repeat that. That's all from before. Modular components. Inside Basecamp, we have the core. So this is the component that basically lets your modules interact with each other. Yeah, and there's two ways of running core, which we'll show later. One is via the command, like within Basecamp, but another you can have a core CLI, so you can be testing modules like that. And there's also tools to run your applications sort of in a headless way as well, like without Basecamp. So there's a few developer options there as well as the Basecamp, which is what probably most users will use Basecamp, but yeah, there's other ways to run it. The module that is the Logos blockchain is sort of in two parts, a bit like Ethereum has its sort of, I guess, a consensus-focused part and an execution-focused part. That's the same here. We have the blockchain module, which focuses purely on consensus. And we also have zones after that, which is Logos execution zone. So these are just to remind ourselves of the stack, the modules within the stack, that the blockchain component is made up of the consensus component and the execution component. The other modules that are outside of the blockchain module is messaging. So this allows private messaging. Yeah, it's sort of private to its fullest extent, and I think it's only when we sort of think about how we sort of the shortcomings of, you know, if people know when we're sending a message or who we're sending a message to, even if they don't know the contents, it can still reveal a lot about individuals. This sort of has that full privacy where even the departure of the message is not necessarily sort of tracked, but like no one is sort of being able to analyze who's sending what to who. Like it's just all beyond obfuscated. It's just, yeah, I could find the right term for that, but it's all yeah, kept completely private. So then we have storage. Yeah, and yeah, basically the important part of storage is that can be where your applications and modules live. So it's not relying on a centralized server to host your dApps. So I think that's maybe enough of that overview, given I saw people already sharing URLs. Let's take a look at sort of scouting ahead. If you're not already in, like if you want to type this link in, link.logos.co/bootcamp, if someone wants to share that in the chat as well. This is basically takes you to the Builders Hub in Logos. So yeah, so whether you want to scan that or just type it in, I think we'll have that in the chat, if not already. I can type that. Oh, there we are. Thank you, Guru. Right, so to scout ahead, it links to a few things here. One being the Lambda prizes. I presume that was already mentioned in the chat there. Yeah, so you've got these Lambda prizes. They're sort of smaller challenges compared to the RFPs, which we'll mention next. And yeah, you can sort of basically put in PRs to solve certain problems that are listed there. And there's potential prizes for that, yeah, to support with that. The RFPs are for sort of larger, more developer teams or studios. Like if you can see it's a bigger piece of work, a more substantial chunk that needs a more formal sort of definition of what will be achieved. And so you have to put in that as an application. So you put in your proposal for how you might achieve that. And then that can get assessed on sort of a more bigger thing. Oh, so coming back, if you haven't already, that's, yeah, going back to the Builders Hub. You'll see a little button, need help. That's to join the Discord server. And there's a Builder Hub channel in there as well, once you've sort of verified yourself. And let's take a look at the repositories. Again, I just saw a bunch of them flying in the chat before, so let's see where we're at. So most of them are under, well, yeah, Logos-Co is the GitHub organization that has most of them. You can download and run Logos Basecamp. We won't have to do each one here step by step because they're going to come either between workshops or then within certain workshops you'll do some of these tasks. But the Logos Basecamp is helpful. You can just download one of the releases and run that just to see that what it looks like. You can build it yourself if you like, but for that one, it's just easier to just use. You've got a tutorial repo within Logos-Co GitHub org. So the Logos tutorials has a few different tutorials on individual modules. So one is to make sort of a backend module, one is to make the front end that talks to that other module. And that's just, quite handy for understanding what you're doing and being able to build something and see the components come together, how you use them within Basecamp or via the CLI, the Logos core in the CLI. This other repo is quite cool if you're doing pure vibe coding. It's logos-dev-boost. You have a look at that. It gives you the command for creating a repository or creating a project or a Logos app project that you can then get your AI to read, to learn the skills, to read the skills from and act on that. The other repositories are in the Logos-blockchain org. So the GitHub org that is Logos Blockchain also has a repo called Logos Blockchain. And so if you want to build and run that, you can see that module, which I think you might use in the first workshop. You can also then, using a Logos scaffold to create other applications that run on the LEZ, which is the execution zone of the blockchain. So hopefully that terminology is all coming together. There's the blockchain as a module, which contains the consensus component, and then the Logos execution zone, which is where we call them Logos programs. So just to touch on the terminology here, your Logos program runs on the LEZ that is part of the blockchain, Logos blockchain. The Logos program is the equivalent of a smart contract in Ethereum, and a Logos app is the equivalent of a dApp, as we say in Web3. So just getting that terminology just for consistency. That's that part there. And for some examples, there's these were made with AI. So one of them was a Logos snake game, which was made, I think that was using the DevBoost tools, the Logos DevBoost repo to do that. And then Firecracken created tic-tac-toe, and I think that was him pointing his AI at the Logos tutorials. So there's many different ways to use AI to build here. And again, the Logos Dev Boost is really a way to kickstart that, but also you can point it at the tutorials and it seems to figure things out enough to do tic-tac-toe. So I think that's roughly where I'm going to stop with this. I might jump back to the chat and see how we are there. And Guru, if I missed anything, just let me know. So we're getting a lot of a lot of questions here, but I think Guru is keeping on top of them. Snake mentioned, great. Oh yeah, Alish is in the chat, thank you. But yeah, I think that's sort of most of the content done there. Where to from here? Shall we carry on with some questions, or? Looks like, so there's a question there about does Basecamp support mobile? Not yet. So Basecamp's definitely on your computer. So it's meant to sort of be kind of like not replacing the browser, but it's where you want to run your local applications for now, because that's uses Qt. The mobile side would be a bigger lift, I believe. That's there we are. We're eventually going to support it. Basecamp for Windows. Let's take a look. Let's open that link. So I'm just going to pull up Basecamp here. So let's take a look what we had. I think it was just the wherever Nix is able to run out. So let's take a look at the latest release. I assume I can't see my screen being shared, but okay. Yeah, so for now it's yeah, just between Mac and Linux. Maybe someone's had a go with this on Windows. I'm not too sure, but it doesn't seem like we're creating builds for Windows. Oh, hang on. No, I lie. The zip is potentially for Windows. I don't know if Guru is able to check that. He's been here a bit longer than me. And I just haven't used Windows in a long time, so I'm not too sure. I was kind of blind to it. I'd like to think that maybe this is Windows, because if it's Nix, I think the idea is that it can be run in many places. So let's see, it should work via. Oh, okay. So you can do it via the yeah, WSL. Okay. What else we got? Let's go to. Let's go to build. So I think you've already taken a look here. It's a bit stretched out. Maybe bring the aspect ratio in. And so yeah, this is where you can join the Discord. This is the Basecamp. For those who are more interested in the infrastructure side, that's running a node. I'd say for this bootcamp, maybe it's more about the building. So you want to check out the. Why can't I see the lambda prices now? Goodness, oh, they're down below. Yeah, here we are. So you've got the lambda prizes here. That's probably what most people are interested in, whether you want to run your own node. You could run a local developer node, of course. If you're sort of building more the application side, which might use storage and messaging, you might not need blockchain. But then for some of the lambda prizes, I think a lot of them are about the Logos programs that run on the LEZ. It's just loading them now. So we've had a few different solutions. I think, like, obviously, a lot of people are using AI to write code. Probably just a point. It's good to sort of iterate with your AI yourself first before making the submission, because I know it's tempting to just sort of have the AI do something, submit that, and see if we say yes or no, and then ask it again, and just basically iterate through us with your AI. Probably not the best way to do this, because we're kind of throttling certain applications that are clearly just Vibe code repeat applications or PRs. So yeah, just encourage you to, by all means use whichever AI tool you're using to help you generate your solutions, but sort of assess them yourself. Make sure they're, say, a proper Logos app. They're not sort of like a web app that's running in your browser, because that's sort of defeats the purpose of using Logos. So if it's purely a smart contract or a Logos program that runs on LEZ, then you can have different testing harnesses around it. Did I not mention scaffold? I just realized may not have come up. Oh, sorry, I did here. Sorry. So you can create a program with Logos scaffold. What was that? So that's for writing your. I've been in Ethereum for so long, I'm always tempted to say smart contract, but I'm just trying to say Logos program to run on the execution zone. And so that's the prizes repo. We can have different pull requests. So it's still early. Like, you still, I would say, sort of get inspired. Like, look at what's here. Look at what sort of like is an area of interest for you, and something you could technically achieve. As I said, a lot of them are around being LEZ programs, token balances, wallets. Actually, that'll be an interesting one. Yeah, for someone who's more into the AI side of things. I think there's a lot of AI people in this audience, and so on. So I won't necessarily list these. Okay. Jump back to the question. We've got scaffold. So Guru's, shared scaffold again. Excellent. Basecamp provides your module access. Yeah. I see. Yeah. Cool. I guess we could stay here and chat. If has anyone had any? Has everyone been able to join the Discord? Just trying to see where we see that. I'm not sure if there's a way. I don't know if there's reactions coming. I haven't maybe been seeing the preview here, but yeah, can people do reactions here, or maybe they're just viewing? Do you know, guys? Oh yeah,
Yes.
there we go.
Yeah,
We got the reactions. Sorry, they've been there the whole time. Excellent.
Are you ready to wrap up, or have you got
Yeah, I
more
think
time?
yeah, just checking maybe with reactions if people want to. Yeah, if there's any more questions, we're getting a lot of love hearts. That's great. Thanks. If there's, yeah, maybe we do wrap it up there. Just checking that people were able to join the Discord. There's a Builders Hub channel, so hopefully once you're verified there, you can.
Yep. Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So then,
Well,
in that case,
yeah, thank you very much, James, for that. And we've got the next workshop is on Wednesday, so you don't have to wait very long for that. That's hosted by Vaclav, and that's going to be a bit of a deeper dive into Logos and how it all works. So that's at 4 p.m. BST, so that's 4 p.m. UK time. So you'll have to check where that is, where that corresponds to, because I see we have a very international crowd. So yeah, make sure you check what 4 p.m. BST is in your time, and then try and join then. If you can't make it, then we will upload the recordings here. And James, if you want to share the slides with me, I can put them on the Discord. Or if you can, you could feel free to directly put them on the Discord if you want. I'm sure they might be of use to people. But yeah, anyway, thank you very much for joining, guys, and look forward to seeing the rest of you guys on Wednesday.